The Miami sun was setting over the ocean, casting golden light across the luxury hotel where Cameron Knox was about to launch his newest perfume. At 32, Cameron had it all: money, fame, and a reputation for saying exactly what was on his mind, no matter who it hurt. "Mr. Knox, your guests are starting to arrive," said Melissa, his assistant, poking her head into the hotel suite where he was getting ready. Cameron adjusted his navy blue tie against his crisp white shirt and smoothed a hand over his perfectly tailored suit. His light eyes, the color of a winter sky, glanced at his reflection one more time before he nodded. "The champagne better be flowing," he said, "and make sure the photographers know to get my good side." Melissa nodded quickly. She'd only been working for him for 3 months, but she already knew his moods. Tonight he was riding high on controversy, and that made him dangerous. Just last week, Cameron had gone on a popular podcast and said something that set social media on fire. When asked about his inspiration for fragrances, he'd leaned back in his chair and spoken with the confidence of a man who believed every word he said was golden. "Look, I'm just being real. Black women always got too much going on with their scent. It's loud, heavy, never soft and sexy like European girls." The clip had spread like wildfire. Within 48 hours, 2 major brands had dropped their partnerships with him. His phone had been ringing non-stop with calls from his publicist begging him to apologize, but Cameron refused. "Controversy sells," he told Melissa now as they walked toward the elevator. "Watch. White Echo is going to be my biggest launch yet." The elevator doors opened to the hotel's grand ballroom, which had been transformed into a sea of white for the launch of his new fragrance. White flowers, white furniture, white champagne. Everything was designed to highlight the sleek white bottle of his new perfume. Cameron stepped into the room like he owned it. Models in white dresses turned to look at him. Photographers' cameras flashed. Everyone wanted a piece of him. "Cameron, over here!" called out a reporter from Luxury magazine. "Any response to the backlash from your comments last week?" Cameron flashed his $1,000,000 smile. "I just tell the truth, some people can't handle it." He moved through the crowd, shaking hands with influencers and fashion executives. Everyone who mattered in Miami was there, or so he thought. Then it happened. A scent drifted through the air, something warm and sweet that made him stop mid-sentence while talking to a fashion blogger. It was like vanilla, but deeper. Like flowers, but not too strong. It was perfect. Cameron turned, following the scent like it was pulling him by an invisible thread, and that's when he saw her. She stood near the entrance, a vision in a burnt orange silk dress that wrapped around her curves like it was made for her, which it probably was. Her skin was a deep, rich brown, glowing under the lights. Her full lips were painted a subtle shade that matched her dress. But it was her eyes that caught him, soft brown eyes that looked around the room with quiet confidence. "Who is that?" Cameron asked, not taking his eyes off her. The blogger next to him followed his gaze. "I don't know. Not one of the usual crowd." Cameron handed the blogger his empty champagne glass and started making his way across the room. The woman was moving slowly through the crowd, occasionally stopping to admire the white flower arrangements or the promotional photos of his fragrance line. As he got closer, the scent grew stronger. It wasn't just vanilla. There was sandalwood, amber, something floral like jasmine. It wasn't overwhelming. It was intoxicating. "Enjoying the party?" Cameron asked, stepping in front of her with his most charming smile. The woman looked up at him, and for a split second he saw something flash in her eyes. Recognition, but not the kind he was used to, not the starstruck look he got from most women. "It's white," she said, her voice smooth and soft. Cameron laughed. "That's the theme. White Echo. Pure, clean, simple." She said, taking a sip of her champagne. "Is that what white means to you? Purity?" There was something in her tone that made Cameron feel off balance. He wasn't used to women challenging him, especially not ones who looked like her. "I didn't catch your name," he said, ignoring her question. Amara Vaughn. "And how did you get an invitation to my exclusive launch, Amara Vaughn?" He emphasized her name, tasting it on his tongue. "I won a giveaway," she said with a small smile. "Lucky me. Lucky indeed. That scent you're wearing, it's not one of mine." Amara raised an eyebrow. "No, it's not. I made it myself." "You made it?" Cameron was genuinely surprised. "Are you in the industry?" "I'm an aromatherapist. I work at Essence of Peace, a wellness studio in Little Haiti." Cameron nodded slowly, trying to place this woman who didn't seem impressed by him or his wealth or his fame. "Well, whatever you're wearing, it's different." Different from what you're used to from women like me? Amara asked, her voice still soft but with an edge now. Cameron felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? I heard your podcast, she said simply. You mean me, right? I'm one of the ones who smell too strong, aren't I? The champagne in Cameron's stomach turned sour. For the first time in years, he felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. But before he could respond, Amara continued. I didn't come here to call you out, Mr. Knox. I came because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Now I know. She glanced around at the white decor. It's exactly what I expected. She started to walk away, and Cameron found himself doing something he never did, chasing after a woman. Wait, he said, touching her arm lightly. You can't just drop a bomb like that and walk away. Amara looked down at his hand on her arm, and he quickly removed it. I think you've said enough already, don't you? She asked. Besides, there are plenty of European girls here who probably smell just right for you. With that, she turned and continued walking through the crowd. Cameron stood frozen, watching her go. He hadn't felt this way in, well, ever. Challenged, called out, and strangely, desperately interested. Across the room, Melissa appeared at his side. Everything okay, boss? You look like you've seen a ghost. Who is she? He asked, nodding toward Amara, who was now examining a display of his fragrance collection. Melissa checked her tablet. Amara Vaughn. Won the Instagram giveaway last week. She's nobody. Just runs some little wellness shop. Nobody, Cameron repeated, watching as Amara's orange dress moved through the sea of white like a flame. No, I don't think so. The rest of the night was a blur for Cameron. He gave his speech, unveiled the new fragrance, and posed for countless photos. But his eyes kept finding Amara in the crowd. She didn't approach him again, but she didn't leave either. She moved through the party with a grace that made people turn to look at her, even if they didn't know why. And every time she passed near him, that scent, her scent, pulled at something deep inside him. When the party was winding down, Cameron saw Amara heading for the exit. Without thinking, he hurried after her, catching her at the elevator. Let me drive you home, he said. Amara looked at him with those calm brown eyes. I have a ride, thank you. Please, he said, surprising himself with the urgency in his voice. I want to talk to you. About what? About what I said. About your perfume. About anything you want. Amara studied his face for a long moment. Why? Cameron didn't have a good answer. He just knew he couldn't let her walk away. Not yet. Because I think I was wrong. The elevator doors opened, and Amara stepped inside. Just when Cameron thought she was going to leave without another word, she held the door open. One conversation, she said. That's all. Cameron felt a rush of relief as he stepped into the elevator beside her. They rode down in silence, the small space filled with her scent, that warm, complex fragrance that had turned his world upside down in a single night. Outside the hotel, his driver was waiting with his black Bentley. Amara hesitated for just a moment before getting in. As they pulled away from the curb, neither of them noticed the paparazzi taking photos from across the street. Where to? Cameron asked. Coconut Grove, Amara replied. But first, I want to know something. Did you really mean what you said on that podcast? Cameron looked out the window at the Miami streets sliding by. For the first time in a long time, he considered his words carefully. I said it, he admitted, but I've never met anyone who smells like you. Amara shook her head slightly. That's not an apology. I'm not good at those. Clearly. They fell silent again. Cameron snuck glances at her profile in the dim light of the car. She was even more beautiful up close. My studio, Amara said finally. That's what I want to talk about. I want you to see where I work, where I create. Then maybe you'll understand. Cameron nodded, intrigued. Okay. The car turned toward Coconut Grove, and Cameron felt like he was heading into unknown territory. Not just a new neighborhood, but something else entirely. A world where he wasn't in control. A world where a woman like Amara Vaughn could make him question everything he thought he knew. And as they drove through the night, the scent of vanilla, sandalwood, amber, and jasmine filled the car, a fragrance that was quickly becoming the only thing Cameron Knox wanted to breathe. Little did he know, this was just the beginning. The photos of them leaving together would hit the internet by morning. His team would be in crisis mode. Amara's phone would be flooded with messages, and the controversy that Cameron had been so proud of would take on a life of its own. But for now, in the back of that Bentley, there was just a man and a woman, and the beginning of a story neither of them had planned. At Essence of Peace, the small wellness studio where Amara worked, the lights were off except for a small lamp in the back office. Cameron followed her through the front door, taking in the simple but elegant space. Plants lined the walls, and the air smelled of essential oils and peace. "This is where you work?" he asked, looking around at the massage tables and shelves filled with bottles. "This is where I heal people," Amara corrected him. She moved behind a counter and turned on another lamp, illuminating a workspace filled with small bottles, droppers, and labels. "And this is where I create." Cameron approached the counter, curious despite himself. "You make all your own scents?" "I blend them for each client," she explained. "Every person needs something different. Scent is powerful. It's connected to memory, to emotion. It can calm you, energize you, remind you of home." "And what does yours remind you of?" Cameron asked, his voice softer than usual. Amara looked at him for a long moment. "My mother," she said finally. "She passed away 5 years ago. She always smelled like vanilla and jasmine. The sandalwood and amber are mine. Together, they make something new, something that honors her, but is also just for me." Cameron felt something tighten in his chest. "I'm sorry about your mother." "Thank you," Amara said, sounding slightly surprised at his sincerity. "My mother," Cameron started, then stopped. He never talked about his family, ever. But something about this space, about Amara's honesty, made him continue. "My mother loved perfume too. She had bottles all over her dresser." "Is she still alive?" Amara asked. Cameron nodded. "She lives in France now. We don't talk much." "And your father?" "Never knew him," Cameron said shortly. "He left before I was born." Amara nodded, not pushing. She began organizing some bottles on her workstation. "So Cameron Knox, you said black women smell too strong. What did you mean by that?" Cameron leaned against the counter. "I don't know, it just came out." "Things don't just come out," Amara said. "They come from somewhere inside us." Cameron was silent for a moment. "My mother is white," he said finally. "I grew up disconnected from the black side of myself. I guess I've always tried to fit into her world. And in her world, black women smell too strong?" Amara asked, her voice not accusing, just curious. "I don't know. Maybe." Cameron ran a hand through his hair. "I haven't thought about it." "Maybe you should," Amara said simply. She picked up a small bottle and held it out to him. "Smell this." Cameron took the bottle and sniffed. It was sharp, almost medicinal. "What is it?" "Tea tree oil. By itself it's powerful. Some would say too strong." She held out another bottle. "Now this one." This one was sweet, floral. "Lavender?" Amara nodded. She took both bottles back and put a drop from each onto a small paper strip. She swirled them together and handed it to Cameron. "Now smell." The combination was surprising, fresh, clean, but with depth. "It's nice," he said. "Together they're balanced. They bring out different qualities in each other." Amara looked at him steadily. "Nothing is too strong when it's understood and appreciated." Cameron felt like she was talking about more than just essential oils, but before he could respond, his phone rang. He pulled it out to check. It was his publicist. Again. "I should take this," he said, suddenly remembering the world outside this small, peaceful space. Amara nodded. "I should get home anyway. It's late." "Let me drive you," Cameron offered again. "I'll call a ride," she said. "But thank you for coming here." "For listening." Cameron put his phone away without answering it. "Can I see you again?" Amara looked surprised. "Why?" "Because I want to know more about scents, about you." Amara studied him, and Cameron had the uncomfortable feeling she could see right through him. "I work here Tuesday through Saturday," she said finally. "If you're serious about learning, you can come by tomorrow, but not for publicity, not for photos, just to learn." Cameron nodded quickly. "Tomorrow, then." As he left the studio and climbed back into his waiting car, Cameron realized he hadn't checked social media all night, the longest he'd gone in years. His phone was filled with notifications, missed calls, and messages from his team. The top message was from his publicist with a link to a tweet already going viral. "Perfume king Cameron Knox spotted leaving launch party with mystery black woman after saying black women smell too strong. Damage control or genuine connection? Baksha Cameron Knox. White Echo." Cameron closed the app without responding to any of the messages. For the first time in his career, he didn't care what people were saying about him online. He could still smell Amara's perfume on his clothes, and that was all that mattered. Tomorrow he would see her again. Tomorrow he might start to understand what had been missing from his life all along. The morning after the launch party, Cameron woke up to his phone ringing non-stop. He had 37 missed calls, mostly from Melissa and his publicist, and hundreds of text messages. The photos of him leaving with Amara had spread everywhere overnight. "What were you thinking?" his publicist Dana shouted when he finally answered. "Do you know how this looks?" "How what looks?" Cameron asked, rubbing his eyes as he sat up in bed. "You leaving with a black woman right after that podcast disaster. People are saying it's a PR stunt, that you're using her to clean up your image." Cameron frowned. He hadn't thought about how it would look. For once in his life, he hadn't been thinking about his image at all. "It's not a stunt," he said firmly, "and her name is Amara." "I don't care if her name is Beyoncé," Dana snapped. "You need to issue a statement, now. I've drafted one for you." "No," Cameron interrupted. "No statements, no damage control. I'm going to see her again today." There was silence on the other end of the line. "You're what?" "You heard me," Cameron said, feeling strangely calm. "I'm going to her studio to learn about fragrance blending." "Have you lost your mind? Your White Echo launch is being overshadowed by this scandal, and you want to pour gasoline on the fire?" Cameron got out of bed and walked to his window, looking out at the Miami skyline. "Maybe it's time for a change." He hung up before Dana could respond and headed for the shower. As the hot water ran over him, he thought about Amara's words from the night before, about balance, about understanding. For the first time in years, he was questioning himself. Across town, in a modest apartment in Coconut Grove, Amara was having her own crisis. Her phone had been buzzing since she woke up. The worst call had been from her older sister, Keisha. "Please tell me that's not you with Cameron Knox," Keisha had said as soon as Amara answered. "It's not what it looks like," Amara started. "It looks like you're getting cozy with a man who publicly insulted black women. Our mother would be rolling in her grave." Amara winced at the mention of their mother. "I'm not getting cozy with him. He came to the studio because he wanted to understand more about fragrance blending." "Girl, please," Keisha scoffed. "Men like that don't change. He wants your scent, not your soul." The words hit Amara hard because a part of her feared the same thing. What was she thinking, inviting Cameron Knox to her studio? Was she just another conquest for him? "I'm a grown woman, Keisha. I can handle myself. The internet is going crazy. Did you know people are calling you a sellout? Your clients are calling me asking what's going on." Amara closed her eyes. She hadn't thought about how this would affect her business. Essence of Peace was everything to her. "I'll handle it," she said firmly. "I have to go. I'll call you later." After hanging up, Amara sat at her small kitchen table, drinking tea and trying to make sense of her feelings. The truth was, something about Cameron had gotten under her skin. Not his fame or his money, but the vulnerability she'd glimpsed when he talked about his mother, the way his arrogance had cracked just for a moment. She was still sitting there when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Cameron. Still okay for me to come by today?" Amara stared at the message. She should say no. She should protect herself, her business, her reputation. But instead, her fingers typed, "Yes, 2 p.m. At exactly 2 p.m., the bell above the door at Essence of Peace chimed. Amara looked up from behind the counter where she was organizing essential oils to see Cameron walking in. He looked different today, dressed in jeans and a simple button-down shirt instead of his usual flashy suits. More approachable, more real. "You came," she said, surprised despite herself. "I said I would." He glanced around. "No other clients today." "I cleared my schedule," Amara admitted. "I thought it might be better considering—" "The photos," Cameron finished for her. "I'm sorry about that. I didn't think about the paparazzi." "A man who lives his life on social media didn't think about photographers?" Amara raised an eyebrow. Cameron had the grace to look embarrassed. "I wasn't thinking clearly last night." He stepped closer to the counter. "Something about you makes me forget who I'm supposed to be." Amara felt her heart skip, but she kept her face neutral. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Cameron Knox, perfume king, social media bad boy." He shrugged. "It sells perfume. And who are you really?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He looked around as if searching for an answer in the bottles that lined the shelves. "I don't know," he said finally. "I haven't thought about that in a long time." Amara nodded, accepting his honesty. "Well, today you're my student. Come around here and I'll show you how I create my blends." For the next hour, Amara taught Cameron about essential oils, showing him how to identify different scents and how they worked together. He was a quick learner, his nose naturally sensitive to the subtle differences between similar oils. "This one," he said, holding up a small bottle. "It reminds me of my childhood. My mother had a lotion that smelled like this." Amara took the bottle. "Sweet almond oil. It's very comforting. She used to put it on after her shower," Cameron said quietly. "Before she'd go out for the night." "Did she go out a lot?" Cameron nodded. She was young when she had me, just 20. My father left when he found out she was pregnant. She had dreams of being a model, but instead she was a single mum working 3 jobs. That must have been hard for both of you, Amara said gently. She did her best, Cameron said, his voice defensive. But yeah, it was hard. We moved around a lot. She'd date these rich guys, hoping one would give us a better life. Amara heard what he wasn't saying. Were any of them black? Cameron looked at her sharply. No, never. He turned away, picking up another bottle. She didn't talk about my father much, but I knew she blamed him for ruining her life. So you grew up thinking being black was bad? Amara said. It wasn't a question. Cameron was quiet for a long moment. I guess I did, he admitted finally. I never thought about it that way. Amara took the bottle from his hands and put it down. That explains a lot. About what I said on the podcast? She nodded. We carry our histories in everything we do, Cameron, even in what we think smells good. The bell above the door chimed again, and they both looked up. A woman with Amara's same brown eyes, but a sterner expression, walked in. Keisha. I was in the neighborhood, she said, her eyes fixed on Cameron. Thought I'd stop by. Amara gave her sister a look. Keisha. This is Cameron Knox. Cameron. My older sister, Keisha. Cameron extended his hand. Nice to meet you. Keisha looked at his hand but didn't take it. Is it? Nice to meet the man who thinks women like me and my sister smell bad? Keisha, Amara warned. No, it's okay, Cameron said. I deserve that. He looked directly at Keisha. I said something ignorant and hurtful. I'm trying to understand why. Because you're a privileged jerk who built a career on controversy, Keisha suggested. Cameron didn't flinch. Yes, that's part of it. His honesty seemed to surprise Keisha. She glanced at Amara, who gave her a small smile. He's learning about essential oils, Amara explained. How different scents work together. Uh-huh, Keisha said, clearly not convinced. And what about all the people boycotting your business because of him? Amara's smile fell. What? Keisha pulled out her phone and showed Amara a social media page where people were calling for a boycott of Essence of Peace. Comments called Amara a sellout and accused her of sleeping with the enemy. This is why I came by, Keisha said. Your business is taking a hit because of him. Amara felt sick as she scrolled through the comments. She'd built Essence of Peace from nothing after their mother died. It wasn't just a business. It was her mother's legacy. Cameron looked over her shoulder at the phone. His face darkened. This is my fault. Yes, it is, Keisha agreed. I'll fix it, he said firmly. Amara looked up at him. How? I don't know yet, but I will. He turned to Keisha. I understand why you don't trust me, but I care about your sister, and I won't let her business suffer because of me. Keisha studied him for a long moment. Words are easy, Mr. Knox. Actions matter. I know, he said. Just watch. After Keisha left, an uncomfortable silence fell between Amara and Cameron. I should go, he said finally. I've caused enough trouble. Amara didn't argue. She watched as he walked to the door, but before he left, he turned back. Thank you, he said, for today, for teaching me. You're welcome, she said softly. As the door closed behind him, Amara wondered if she'd ever see him again, and why the thought of not seeing him made her heart ache. The next morning, Amara arrived at Essence of Peace to find a crowd outside. For a moment, she feared it was protesters, but as she got closer, she realized people were lined up to get in. Regular clients, new faces, even a few local celebrities. What's going on? She asked a woman at the front of the line. Didn't you see? The woman said excitedly, holding up her phone. Cameron Knox posted about your studio, said it changed his life. Everyone wants to experience what transformed the Perfume King. Stunned, Amara unlocked the door and hurried inside. She pulled out her phone and found Cameron's post. I've spent my career creating fragrances that mask who we really are. Yesterday at Essence of Peace, Amara Vaughn taught me that true beauty comes from honoring our authentic selves. Her wisdom and her custom blends are transformative. If you're in Miami, visit her studio. Not because of me, but because she deserves your support. The post had millions of likes and thousands of comments. Many were from his celebrity friends, saying they were booking appointments. As Amara tried to process what was happening, her phone rang. It was Cameron. Did I make things worse? He asked when she answered. I just don't know, Amara said honestly. There's a line around the block. I meant what I said in that post, Cameron told her. You changed something in me yesterday. I wanted to give something back. By sending me all your followers. By sending you customers who will appreciate what you do. He paused. Is that okay? Amara looked out at the crowd, feeling overwhelmed. I guess I'll find out. I've never had this many clients in a month, let alone a day. I can send help, Cameron offered. Staff from my company. They're trained in customer service. No, Amara said quickly. This is my mother's legacy. I'll handle it my way. There was a pause. Your mother would be proud of you, Amara. The words hit her hard, bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Can I see you again? Cameron asked. Not at the studio. Maybe dinner. Amara hesitated. Her business was suddenly booming because of him, but was that a good reason to see him again? Or was there something more happening between them? One dinner, she said finally, but not somewhere fancy. Somewhere real. Real, Cameron repeated, as if testing the word. I can do real. That night, Cameron picked Amara up in a regular car, not his Bentley. He was dressed simply again, and he took her to a small Cuban restaurant in Little Havana, where the waiters didn't recognize him, and no one took their picture. How did you find this place? Amara asked as they sat in a corner booth. I asked my driver where he takes his wife for their anniversary, Cameron admitted. He said the food here reminds him of home. Amara smiled. That's thoughtful. I'm trying, Cameron said. It doesn't come naturally to me. As they ate, they talked about everything except perfume. Amara told him about growing up with Keisha after their parents divorced, about how her mother had taught her to blend oils when she was just a little girl. Cameron shared stories about his rise to fame, how he'd started with a small online store selling cologne samples and built it into an empire. But the more successful I got, the more I felt like I had to be someone else, he admitted. The controversial comments, the flashy lifestyle, it all became part of the brand. And now, Amara asked. Cameron looked at her across the table. Now I'm wondering if I lost myself somewhere along the way. After dinner, they walked along a quiet street, their hands occasionally brushing but never quite holding. My team is freaking out, Cameron told her. They think I'm having a breakdown because I haven't posted anything controversial in 2 days. Amara laughed. Is that a record? Pretty much. He stopped walking and turned to face her. They want me to distance myself from you. They say you're bad for the brand. Amara felt her heart sink. And what do you say? I say maybe it's time for a new brand. Cameron took her hand. One that's honest. Real. The touch of his fingers against hers sent warmth up Amara's arm. Can you do that? Change everything you've built? I don't know, he admitted. But I want to try. They continued walking, this time with their hands linked. Neither mentioned the fact that tomorrow their pictures would probably be all over the internet again. Neither talked about what Keisha would say or what Cameron's team would do. For tonight, it was just the two of them discovering something new and fragile between them. When they reached Amara's apartment, Cameron walked her to the door, but didn't try to come inside. Thank you for tonight, he said, for giving me a chance. Amara looked up at him, seeing the struggle in his eyes, the man he had been fighting with the man he wanted to become. Good night, Cameron, she said softly. He leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. The scent of her perfume wrapped around him, and he closed his eyes, breathing it in. Good night, Amara. As she watched him walk away, Amara touched her cheek where his lips had been. She was falling for him, despite everything, despite Keisha's warnings, despite her own better judgment. There was something about Cameron Knox that called to her, something beyond his fame or his looks or his money, something broken that matched the broken places in her. What she didn't know was that back in his apartment, Cameron was already working on something new. Inspired by her scent, by the way she'd made him feel, he was secretly contacting his lab team. I want to create something different, he told them. Something honest, something that feels like coming home. While Amara slept that night, dreaming of Cameron's kiss, he was staying up late, writing notes for what would become his most personal creation yet, a fragrance called After Amara, a fragrance that would change everything between them for better or worse. The next week was a whirlwind for Amara. Her studio was booked solid, with clients coming from all over Florida to experience her custom blends. She had to hire 2 assistants just to keep up with demand. Even Keisha had to admit that Cameron's post had been good for business. But I still don't trust him, Keisha said as she helped Amara close up the studio one night. Men like that don't change overnight. It hasn't been overnight, Amara argued. It's been almost 2 weeks. Keisha gave her a look. You know what I mean. Be careful, sis. You're falling for him. Amara couldn't deny it. She and Cameron had been seeing each other almost every day. Sometimes he came to the studio to learn more about essential oils. Other times they met for quiet dinners or walks on the beach. He'd been true to his word. No fancy restaurants, no publicity stunts, just two people getting to know each other. "There's more to him than what he shows the world," Amara told her sister. "I hope you're right," Keisha said, "for your sake." Meanwhile, Cameron was facing his own challenges. His team was in revolt over his sudden change of image. Sales of White Echo had stalled, as his followers wondered what had happened to the provocative influencer they loved to hate. His publicist was threatening to quit, and his investors were demanding a meeting. But for the first time in his career, Cameron didn't care. He was focused on his secret project, the fragrance inspired by Amara. He spent hours at the lab, mixing and testing, until he found the perfect blend. Something that captured the warmth and depth he felt when he was with her. Something that told their story. He hadn't told her about it yet. He wanted it to be a surprise, a gift that would show her how much she had changed him. What Cameron didn't realize was that secrets have a way of coming to light, especially in the age of social media. And his secret was about to be exposed in the worst possible way. It happened on a Tuesday. Amara was at the studio, finishing up with her last client of the day, when her phone started buzzing with notifications. She ignored it until the client left, then checked to see what was happening. Her heart dropped as she read the headline on a popular beauty blog, "Cameron Knox's new fragrance after Amara leaks. Is he exploiting his new girlfriend for profit?" The article included photos of prototype bottles and marketing materials that had been leaked from his lab. It quoted an anonymous source saying that Cameron was using his relationship with Amara to rebrand himself after the controversy, and that After Amara was just another calculated business move. Amara felt sick as she scrolled through the article. He had been creating a perfume named after her, without telling her, without asking her permission. Was this all just a scheme to save his reputation and boost his sales? Her phone rang. It was Cameron. "Amara, I can explain. Were you ever going to tell me?" She interrupted, her voice shaking. "Or were you just going to put my name on a bottle and sell it?" "It's not like that," Cameron insisted. "I wanted it to be a surprise, a gift." "A gift? My name, my story, my scent. That's not yours to sell, Cameron." "I wasn't going to sell it without your permission," he said desperately. "I swear, the leak wasn't supposed to happen. Nothing was finalized." Amara closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "You took something sacred and made it about you again." "Amara, please, I need time to think," she said. "Don't come to the studio. Don't call me. Just give me space." She hung up before he could respond, before she could break down completely. As she locked up the studio and headed home, her phone continued to buzz with messages from friends, clients, even reporters asking for comment. But the only message she cared about was from Keisha. "You okay? Coming over now with ice cream." By the time Amara reached her apartment, Keisha was already there, waiting with open arms and a pint of their favorite comfort food. As Amara fell into her sister's embrace, the tears finally came. "He was using me," she sobbed. "Just like you said." Keisha stroked her hair. "Maybe, maybe not. But either way, you're going to be okay." That night, as Amara cried herself to sleep in her childhood bedroom at Keisha's house, Cameron sat alone in his luxury apartment, staring at the prototype bottle of After Amara. It smelled like honey, cinnamon, warmth, and memory. It smelled like her. But in trying to capture that magic, he might have destroyed the most real thing he'd ever had. His phone was filled with messages from his team, all excited about the leak, all seeing it as the perfect way to revive his brand. "The controversy is already driving pre-orders," one message read. "This could be bigger than White Echo." Cameron threw his phone across the room. They still didn't understand. This wasn't about sales or his image or his brand. This was about Amara, about how she had made him feel, about how, for the first time in his life, he had found someone who saw past his fame to the lonely, conflicted man beneath. And now he had lost her, unless he could find a way to prove that his feelings were real, that he wasn't just using her, that the man she had glimpsed beneath the Perfume King's crown was the man he truly wanted to be. Tomorrow, he would try to make things right, but tonight, surrounded by all the trappings of his success, Cameron Knox had never felt more like a failure. 3 days had passed since Amara had spoken to Cameron. 3 days of ignoring his calls, his texts, and the bouquets of flowers that arrived at her studio every morning. 3 days of reporters asking for comments about After Amara, and clients wanting to know if she was getting a cut of the profits. "You can't hide at my place forever," Keisha said, as she watched Amara pick at her breakfast. They were sitting in Keisha's small kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through the windows. "I'm not hiding," Amara insisted. "I'm processing." Keisha raised an eyebrow. "Uh-huh. That's why you turned your phone off and haven't been back to your apartment." Amara sighed. The truth was she was hiding, not just from Cameron but from her own feelings, because despite the betrayal, despite the anger, she still missed him. She missed his smile, his voice, the way he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. "I trusted him," Amara said softly. "I thought he was changing." "Maybe he was," Keisha said, surprising her. "Maybe he still is." Amara looked up. "I thought you hated him." "I don't trust him," Keisha corrected. "But the way that man has been trying to reach you, I don't know, it seems like more than just damage control." Before Amara could respond, the doorbell rang. Keisha went to answer it, returning a moment later with a small package. "It's from him," she said, placing it on the table in front of Amara. The package was simple. A brown box with no company logo, no flashy wrapping, just her name written in what she recognized as Cameron's handwriting. "I don't want it," Amara said, pushing it away. "You sure about that?" Keisha asked. "Because you've been staring at it for 5 minutes." Amara glared at her sister, then sighed. "Fine." She pulled the box toward her and carefully opened it. Inside was a small wooden box, worn and scratched with age. On top was a handwritten note. "Amara, this isn't about perfume. This is about me, about who I was before I became Cameron Knox, Perfume King. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to see me, the real me." Cameron. Curious despite herself, Amara opened the wooden box. Inside were childhood treasures, a faded photograph of a young woman holding a baby, a small glass bottle half filled with lotion, a broken incense holder and an old perfume bottle. "What is all this?" Keisha asked, peering over her shoulder. "I don't know," Amara said, carefully lifting the photo. The woman was beautiful, with light skin and long hair. The baby in her arms had Cameron's eyes. "His mother," Keisha guessed. Amara nodded, then picked up the perfume bottle. She removed the cap and sniffed. The scent was faint but unmistakable. Almonds and milk. Soft, comforting. The scent of a mother's embrace. "He told me his mother wore almond lotion," Amara said quietly. "That he used to smell her perfume when he couldn't sleep." "Okay, that's actually kind of sweet," Keisha admitted. Amara ran her fingers over the items, feeling like she was touching pieces of Cameron's soul. Not the man he showed to the world, but the little boy who had missed his mother. The boy who had grown up, disconnected from half of who he was. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter where she'd left it charging. She turned it on and was immediately flooded with notifications. Messages from clients, from reporters, from friends, and dozens from Cameron. She scrolled through them quickly, stopping at the most recent one. "I've cancelled After Amara. Told my team it was never meant for production. They think I've lost my mind. Maybe I have, but I'd rather lose my company than lose you." Amara stared at the message, her heart pounding. He had cancelled the perfume, the one that was already generating buzz and pre-orders. "What is it?" Keisha asked, seeing her expression. "He cancelled the fragrance," Amara said, still in disbelief. "Seriously? Isn't that like millions of dollars?" "Probably." Amara looked back at the wooden box with its childhood treasures. "I need to see him." Keisha sighed. "I knew you'd say that." "I'm not forgiving him," Amara clarified. "I just need to understand." "Mm-hmm," Keisha hummed, unconvinced. "Just be careful, okay? Guard your heart." But as Amara got ready to leave, she knew it was already too late for that. Her heart was already deeply involved, whether she wanted it to be or not. Across town, Cameron was sitting in a boardroom, facing angry investors and team members. The atmosphere was tense, with his publicist pacing back and forth, while his financial advisor showed slides of projected losses. "You can't just cancel a product that's already been leaked," Dana, his publicist, was saying. "The buzz is incredible. We've had calls from Sephora, from Nordstrom. Everyone wants to stock After Amara." "I've told you," Cameron said firmly. "It was never meant for production. It was a personal project. A personal project that could save your brand after your podcast disaster," his marketing director pointed out. "White Echo sales have flatlined. We need this launch." Cameron looked around the table at the faces of people who had been with him for years, people who had helped build his empire, people who had encouraged his controversial persona because it sold product. "Maybe I don't want to be saved," he said quietly. "What is that supposed to mean?" Dana demanded. Cameron stood up. "It means I'm done. This meeting is over." He walked out, ignoring their calls for him to come back. In the elevator, he loosened his tie, feeling like he could breathe for the first time in years. He had no idea what he was going to do next, but he knew he couldn't keep living a lie. His driver was waiting outside, ready to take him home. But as Cameron approached the car, he saw someone standing there. Amara. She was holding the wooden box he had sent her, looking uncertain but determined. Beautiful. "Amara," he said, his voice catching. "You cancelled the fragrance," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "Why?" Cameron stepped closer to her. "Because it was wrong. I should have asked you. I should have told you what I was doing." "That's not what I'm asking," Amara said. "Why did you create it in the first place?" Cameron looked down at the wooden box in her hands. "Because you changed something in me. You made me feel real, and I wanted to capture that feeling, to honor it." He met her eyes. "To honor you." Amara studied his face, looking for any sign of deception, but all she saw was sincerity, and something else, something that made her heart race. "I just came from a board meeting," Cameron told her. "They think I'm crazy for cancelling it. Maybe I am." "What did you tell them?" "That it was never meant for production, that it was personal." He took another step toward her. "What I didn't tell them is that I've been living a lie for so long I hardly know who I am anymore. But when I'm with you, I catch glimpses of the man I want to be." Amara felt tears forming in her eyes. "Cameron, I'm not asking for another chance," he said quickly. "I know I messed up. I just wanted you to know that none of this was fake for me. What I feel for you is the most real thing in my life." Amara looked down at the box in her hands, at the childhood treasures he had shared with her, the most private pieces of himself. "I'm still angry," she said honestly. "You have every right to be. And confused. And hurt. I know." Amara took a deep breath. "But I miss you." The words hung in the air between them, fragile and true. Cameron's eyes widened, hope flickering in them. "I miss you too," he whispered. "More than I've ever missed anyone." Amara held out the wooden box to him. "Tell me about these. About your mother. About the little boy who kept these treasures." Cameron glanced at his waiting driver, then back at Amara. "Can we go somewhere and talk? Really talk?" Amara nodded. "My studio. It's closed today." The ride to Essence of Peace was quiet, both of them aware of the fragile new understanding between them. When they arrived, Amara unlocked the door and led Cameron inside. The space was peaceful, filled with plants and soft light. They sat on the small couch in the corner, where Amara sometimes had consultations with clients. Cameron placed the wooden box on the coffee table between them and began to explain each item. "This was my mother's perfume," he said, picking up the old bottle. "She wore it every day until I was about 10. Then she couldn't afford it anymore." He smiled sadly. "She used to let me smell it when I had nightmares. Said it would keep the bad dreams away." "And the incense holder?" Amara asked. "That was hers too. She burned incense in our apartment to cover the smell of mildew. We lived in some pretty bad places when I was little." He ran his finger over the broken edge. "I broke it one day, playing too rough. I thought she'd be mad, but she just glued it back together. Said broken things still had value." Amara watched his face as he spoke, seeing the little boy he had been. A boy who had loved his mother. A boy who had learned to hide parts of himself to survive. "And the photo?" she asked softly. Cameron picked it up gently. "The only picture I have of us from when I was a baby, before she started changing." "Changing," Cameron sighed. "After my father left, she became obsessed with fitting in, with being accepted in white spaces. She straightened her hair, changed how she dressed, even changed how she talked on the phone." He looked at Amara. "And she taught me to do the same, to be less black, to be acceptable." "That's why you said what you did on the podcast," Amara realized, "about black women smelling too strong." Cameron nodded, shame evident on his face. "I was repeating things I'd heard my whole life, things I never questioned, because questioning them meant questioning her, and she was all I had." "Where is she now?" Amara asked. "In France. She married a businessman from Paris when I was 15. He's good to her, I think, but we don't talk much." Cameron put the photo back in the box. "She doesn't like to be reminded of her life before." "That must be painful for you," Amara said gently. Cameron looked surprised, as if he'd never considered his own pain. "I guess it is. I've spent so long trying to be what she wanted me to be that I never stopped to think about what I wanted." "And what do you want, Cameron?" He looked at her, his eyes clear and direct. "Right now, you. A chance to be the man you thought I could be when you invited me to your studio. A chance to be real." Amara felt her heart swell, but she forced herself to be cautious. "And what about your company, your brand?" "I don't know," Cameron admitted. Maybe it's time for something new, something honest. Like what? I've been thinking about that. Cameron leaned forward, his eyes lighting up with excitement. What if instead of making perfumes that mask who we are, I created fragrances that celebrate identity, that honor heritage and memory? That sounds beautiful, Amara said. But I can't do it alone, Cameron continued. I need someone who understands the soul of scent, someone who knows how to blend not just oils, but stories. Amara realized what he was suggesting. Are you offering me a job? Cameron laughed. No, I'm offering you a partnership. Equal say, equal ownership. Your name on the door, not just on a bottle. Amara stared at him, stunned. You're serious. Never been more serious in my life. Cameron took her hands in his. But only if you want it. Only if you think you could ever trust me again. Amara looked down at their joined hands, her deep brown skin against his lighter shade, different but harmonious, like complementary notes in a complex fragrance. Trust takes time, she said honestly, but I'm willing to try. Cameron's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. That's all I'm asking for. A chance to try. The door to the studio opened suddenly, and they both turned to see Keisha standing there, hands on her hips. I knew I'd find you here, she said to Amara, and I knew he'd be with you. Keisha, Amara started. No, let me talk, Keisha interrupted. She walked toward them, eyes fixed on Cameron. I've been doing some research on you, Mr. Knox, and I found something interesting. What's that? Cameron asked warily. Last year you donated $500,000 to a scholarship fund for black girls in STEM. Anonymously. Keisha raised an eyebrow. Why keep that secret when you broadcast everything else? Cameron looked uncomfortable. It wasn't about publicity. It was personal. Because of your mother, Keisha pressed. Because of who I wish she could have been, Cameron said quietly. Who she might have been if she'd had more support, more options. Keisha nodded slowly, as if confirming something to herself. Then she turned to Amara. He's still on probation as far as I'm concerned, she said. But I think he might actually care about you. High praise coming from you, Amara said with a small smile. Don't push it, Keisha warned, but her eyes were softer now. She looked back at Cameron. Hurt her again, and they'll never find your body. Understood, Cameron said seriously. With that, Keisha turned and left, leaving Amara and Cameron alone again. Your sister is terrifying, Cameron said once the door closed. She's protective, Amara corrected. She practically raised me after our parents divorced. Tell me about them, Cameron said, genuinely interested. About your family. And so she did. They spent hours talking, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Amara told him about her mother's battle with cancer, how she had taught Amara everything she knew about essential oils before she died. Cameron shared more about his complicated relationship with his mother, about building his company from nothing, about the loneliness of fame. As evening fell, they ordered takeout and ate it cross-legged on the floor of the studio, surrounded by bottles of essential oils and the gentle scent of sandalwood from a diffuser. I have something to show you, Cameron said as they finished eating. He pulled out his phone and opened an email. I drafted this announcement today, but I haven't sent it yet. I wanted you to see it first. Amara took the phone and read, To my followers and customers, for years, I've built my brand on controversy and division. I've said things that hurt people, including comments about black women that were ignorant and wrong. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm taking responsibility. Effective immediately, I'm stepping down as the face of Knox Fragrances. The company will be undergoing a complete rebranding, with a new focus on celebrating diversity and honoring heritage. To those I've hurt, I'm sorry. To those who supported me anyway, thank you. And to everyone, watch this space. Something real is coming. Cameron Knox. Amara looked up from the phone, stunned. You're really going to send this? With your approval, yes. You don't need my approval, Cameron. I want it, he said simply. Your opinion matters to me. Amara handed the phone back to him. It's a good statement, honest. Like I'm trying to be, Cameron said with a small smile. As they cleaned up their takeout containers, a comfortable silence fell between them. The air was filled with possibility, of forgiveness, of new beginnings, of something deeper growing between them. It's getting late, Amara said finally. I should probably go home. My actual home, not Keisha's couch. Can I drive you? Cameron asked. Amara nodded. I'd like that. Outside, the Miami night was warm and star-filled. As they walked to Cameron's car, he hesitantly reached for her hand. Amara let him take it, feeling the warmth of his fingers intertwined with hers. Amara, he said as they reached the car. About the fragrance, after Amara. You don't have to explain again, she started. No, I want to. Cameron turned to face her. I still have the formula. The only copy. I want you to have it. Me, why? Because it was always meant to be yours, he said. Not for my company, not for sales, just for you. A gift. Amara felt tears spring to her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept it, Cameron whispered, and that maybe, someday you might wear it for me. Their eyes locked, and in that moment Amara felt something shift between them. The anger was still there, but fading. The hurt was healing. And something new was growing in its place. Something warm and sweet and real. I'd like to smell it first, she said with a small smile. See if you got it right. Cameron laughed, relief washing over his face. Fair enough. As they drove through the Miami streets toward Amara's apartment, neither of them mentioned the future. Neither talked about what tomorrow would bring when Cameron sent his announcement. Neither spoke about the partnership he had proposed or what it might mean for them both personally and professionally. For tonight, it was enough to know that they were trying, that second chances were possible, that broken things still had value. What they didn't know was that tomorrow would bring new challenges, that Cameron's announcement would send shockwaves through the industry, that his investors would threaten to sue him, that someone from his past would emerge with revelations that could destroy the fragile trust they were building. But for tonight, as Cameron walked Amara to her door and kissed her softly on the cheek, everything was possible. Everything was real. And as he drove away, the scent of her lingering on his clothes, Cameron knew that whatever happened next, he was finally becoming the man he was meant to be. Not the perfume king, not his mother's son, just Cameron. Authentic and flawed and trying his best to be worthy of a second chance. The next morning, Amara woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. It was a text from Cameron. Just sent the announcement. No turning back now. Dinner tonight? She smiled and typed back, yes. Good luck today. As she got ready for work, she turned on the TV to catch the morning news. She froze when she saw Cameron's face on the screen, with the headline, Perfume mogul Cameron Knox steps down amid controversy. The reporter was saying, in a shocking move, Cameron Knox announced today that he's stepping down as the face of his billion-dollar fragrance empire. This comes weeks after his controversial comments about black women and rumors of a relationship with aromatherapist Amara Vaughn. Industry insiders are calling it career suicide. Amara's phone rang. It was Keisha. Have you seen the news? Her sister asked. I'm watching it now, Amara said. I can't believe he actually did it. Believe it, Keisha said. And there's more. Check your email. Amara put the phone on speaker and opened her email. There was a message from a lawyer's office with the subject line, Knox-Vaughn Partnership Agreement, Draft. He sent it to me too, Keisha explained, asking me to review it for you. It's legit, Amara. Equal partnership, equal profits, your name on everything. This is overwhelming, Amara said, sitting down on her bed. It's a big decision, Keisha acknowledged. But I have to admit, the man is serious about making things right. Before Amara could respond, her call waiting beeped. It was Cameron. I have to go, she told Keisha. It's him. Go ahead. And Amara? I'm proud of you. Amara smiled as she switched calls. Cameron? Hey, he said, sounding breathless. Have you seen the news? Just now. How are you holding up? My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Dana quit. 3 investors have threatened to pull out. He paused. But I've never felt more certain about anything in my life. I got the partnership agreement, Amara told him. Keisha's reviewing it. Good. I want everything to be transparent this time. Cameron hesitated. There's something else. I've been invited to do an interview tomorrow. To explain my decision, I was hoping... Would you come with me? On TV? Cameron, I don't know. Not as my girlfriend, he clarified quickly. As my potential business partner. To talk about our vision for the future. Amara thought about it. Going public would change everything. Her quiet life, her small business, her privacy, all gone in an instant. But staying in the shadows felt wrong too, like she was ashamed of her connection to Cameron, of what they might build together. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. Really? Cameron sounded surprised and delighted. Really? But Cameron, let's be clear about one thing. What's that? Amara smiled to herself. I am your girlfriend, if you want me to be. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line, then Cameron's voice, soft and full of emotion. More than anything, as she hung up, Amara felt a mix of excitement and fear. Everything was changing so fast. But for the first time since her mother died, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. What she didn't know was that across town, a woman was watching the news coverage of Cameron's announcement with cold, calculating eyes. A woman who had known Cameron long before he became famous. A woman who knew secrets that could destroy everything. As the woman reached for her phone, a plan already forming in her mind, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test Amara and Cameron's new love in ways they couldn't imagine. Their story was far from over. In fact, the most dramatic chapter was just about to begin. The morning of the interview, Amara stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what to wear. This would be her first time on national television, her first time presenting herself as Cameron Knox's business partner and girlfriend. Her phone rang. It was Keisha. "Wear the yellow dress," her sister said without preamble, "the one Mum gave you for your birthday." Amara smiled. "How did you know I was staring at my closet?" "Because I know you," Keisha said, "and I know you're nervous, but you've got this, sis." "Thanks," Amara said, pulling out the bright yellow wrap dress her mother had given her before she died. It was cheerful and confident, just like her mom had been. "Any other advice?" "Just be yourself," Keisha told her. "That's what got you here. That's what changed him." After hanging up, Amara slipped on the dress and stood in front of the mirror. The woman looking back at her wasn't just a small business owner anymore. She was about to step into a much bigger world. Her doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. Cameron stood outside, looking handsome but nervous in a navy suit with no tie. He'd let his hair grow out a bit, softer than his usual sharp cut. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warming as he took in the yellow dress. "You don't look so bad yourself," Amara replied with a smile. "Ready for this?" "As long as you're with me," he offered his arm. "Shall we?" The car ride to the TV studio was quiet, both of them lost in thought. Cameron reached over and took Amara's hand. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, "before we go on air." Amara's heart skipped. "What is it?" "My mother called this morning. She saw the announcement." "What did she say?" Cameron took a deep breath. "She's not happy. She thinks I'm ruining my life." He paused. "She asked if you were the reason I'm throwing everything away." Amara felt a chill. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that you're the reason I finally found the courage to be myself." He squeezed her hand. "The real me." The warmth in his eyes melted away Amara's worry. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. At the studio, they were whisked into makeup and then to the side of the set, where the morning show host, Ellen Richards, was finishing another segment. Ellen was in her 60s, a respected journalist known for tough but fair interviews. "Don't be nervous," Cameron whispered to Amara. "Just speak from the heart." 2 minutes, called a production assistant. As they waited, Amara noticed a woman being escorted to a seat in the audience. She was tall and slender, with sleek dark hair and a face that seemed vaguely familiar. "Cameron," Amara whispered. "Who is that woman?" "The one in the red dress." Cameron followed her gaze and his face went pale. "Olivia," he said, his voice tight. "My ex." "Your ex," Amara repeated. "What is she doing here?" Before Cameron could answer, they were being called onto the set. As they sat down across from Ellen Richards, Amara could feel Olivia's eyes on them, cold and calculating. "Welcome to Morning America," Ellen began. "Today we're joined by Cameron Knox, founder of Knox Fragrances, and Amara Vaughn, owner of Essence of Peace Wellness Studio. Cameron, you've made quite a splash with your announcement yesterday. Why step down from the company you built?" Cameron leaned forward. "It was time for a change, Ellen. I built my brand on controversy and division. I said things that were hurtful and wrong, especially my comments about black women. I realized I couldn't keep living and working that way." "And what role did Ms. Vaughn play in this decision?" Ellen asked, turning to Amara. Amara took a deep breath. "I think sometimes we need someone to hold up a mirror and show us who we really are," she said. "Cameron had lost sight of himself. I just helped him remember." "You two met at the launch of Cameron's fragrance, White Echo, correct? After his controversial podcast comments?" "Yes," Cameron confirmed. "Amara won a giveaway to attend, and honestly, she was the last person I expected to find there." "Because she's black?" Ellen pressed. "Because she was real," Cameron corrected. "In a room full of people pretending to be something they're not." Amara stood out. "She challenged me, made me question everything." Ellen turned to Amara. "And you're now not just in a relationship with Mr. Knox, but also entering a business partnership. Isn't that risky, given his history?" "Life is full of risks," Amara said simply, "but I believe in second chances. And I believe in what we're creating together. fragrances that celebrate identity and heritage rather than masking who we really are. The interview continued, with questions about their plans for the rebranded company and how they would address the backlash from investors. Throughout it all, Amara could feel Olivia watching them, her expression growing darker with each passing minute. "Before we wrap up," Ellen said, "I understand we have a question from the audience." She pointed to Olivia. "Yes, the woman in red." Olivia stood, a cold smile on her face. "My question is for Cameron. Do you really expect people to believe this sudden transformation? That you've changed your views on black women just because you're sleeping with one?" A gasp went through the audience. Cameron's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Olivia continued. "I dated Cameron for 2 years," she announced, "and I know exactly who he is, a man who will say or do anything to sell product. This relationship," she gestured dismissively at Amara, "is just his latest marketing strategy." The studio went silent. Cameron stood up, his face flushed with anger. "That's enough, Olivia. You don't know anything about my relationship with Amara." "Don't I?" Olivia challenged. "Wasn't it you who told me you'd never seriously date a black woman because it would confuse your brand identity?" "That was just last year, Cameron." Amara felt like the floor was dropping beneath her. She looked at Cameron, searching his face for denial, for explanation. "Is that true?" she asked quietly. Cameron turned to her, pain in his eyes. "I said a lot of things in the past that I'm ashamed of," he admitted. "Things I didn't question because they were easier than facing the truth about myself." "Which is what?" Ellen prompted, clearly aware this was explosive television. "That I've spent my life running from half of who I am," Cameron said, his voice steady now. "My father was black. He left before I was born. My mother raised me to fit into her world, a white world, and I let her. I denied that part of myself because it was easier than dealing with the pain." He turned back to Amara, taking her hands in his. "But then I met you, and for the first time I couldn't hide anymore. I didn't want to." "How touching," Olivia said sarcastically. "Except he was still making racist comments on podcasts 3 weeks ago. People don't change that fast, honey." "Maybe not completely," Amara acknowledged, finding her voice. "Change is a process, but it has to start somewhere." She looked directly at Olivia. "Why are you really here? What do you want?" Olivia's cool facade cracked slightly. "I want everyone to see this for what it is, a publicity stunt. Cameron dumped me when his team suggested he needed someone more edgy for his brand. Now suddenly he's in love with you. Please." "I never loved you, Olivia," Cameron said quietly. "We both know that. Our relationship was as manufactured as my public image." Olivia's face flushed with anger. "You'll regret this," she hissed, then turned and stormed off the set. Ellen, ever the professional, quickly wrapped up the segment. "Well, that was certainly dramatic. We'll be right back after these messages." As soon as the cameras stopped rolling, Amara stood up. "I need some air," she said, walking quickly off the set. Cameron followed her to a quiet hallway. "Amara, wait. Please." She turned to face him. "Did you say that? About never seriously dating a black woman?" Cameron closed his eyes briefly. "Yes," he admitted. "A year ago, when I was still playing a role, when I was still that other person." "And now?" Amara asked. "Are you still playing a role?" "No," Cameron said firmly. "Everything with you has been real. The realest thing in my life." He reached for her hand. "Olivia was part of my old life, a life where everything was calculated for maximum impact, including who I dated. And I'm not part of some calculation. You're the reason I stopped calculating," Cameron said. "The reason I finally found the courage to be myself." Amara studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. But all she saw was sincerity and love. "I believe you," she said finally. "But no more secrets, Cameron. If we're going to do this, the business, the relationship, all of it, I need complete honesty." "You have it," he promised. "No more secrets." As they made their way back to the green room, Amara's phone buzzed with a text from Keisha. "You were amazing, and so was he. Maybe I was wrong about him." Coming from Keisha, that was high praise indeed. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The interview went viral, with clips of Olivia's accusations and Cameron's honest response shared millions of times. Opinion was divided. Some saw it as a genuine moment of reckoning and growth, others as a calculated publicity move. But through it all, Amara and Cameron stayed focused on their vision. They worked long hours redesigning the company, now called Heritage Scents. They created a new line of fragrances, inspired by different cultural traditions, with stories behind each scent. The first fragrance they launched was called Mother's Memory. inspired by Amara's blend of vanilla, jasmine, sandalwood, and amber. It came in a beautiful bottle with a card explaining the story behind it. The response was overwhelming, with pre-orders exceeding their expectations. "We did it," Cameron said one evening, as they sat in Amara's studio, looking at the sales figures on his laptop. "They love it." "Of course they do," Amara said. "It's authentic, it's personal, it's real." Cameron closed the laptop and turned to her. "There's something I want to ask you." "What is it?" Amara asked, noticing the serious look in his eyes. "My mother called again today. She's coming to Miami next week." He took Amara's hand. "She wants to meet you." Amara felt a flutter of nervousness. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I'd love for them to meet, but only if she's ready to see me for who I really am, all of me." "And what did she say?" "She said she's trying," Cameron replied, "that she wants to understand." He squeezed Amara's hand. "Will you meet her? It won't be easy. She has a lifetime of her own issues to work through." Amara thought about it. Meeting Cameron's mother was a big step, not just for their relationship but for Cameron's journey to self-acceptance. "Yes," she said, "I'll meet her." The day of the meeting arrived all too quickly. They had arranged to have lunch at a quiet restaurant by the water. Amara wore a simple blue dress, and Cameron seemed more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "Relax," she told him. "It's going to be fine. You don't know my mother," he said. "She can be difficult." When Catherine Knox arrived, Amara understood what he meant. She was elegant and beautiful in her mid-50s but looking younger, with the same light eyes as Cameron. She carried herself with a rigid posture that suggested she was bracing for battle. "Mother," Cameron said, standing to greet her. "This is Amara. Amara, my mother. Catherine." Catherine extended her hand. "Ms. Vaughn," she said coolly, "I've heard a great deal about you." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Knox," Amara replied, keeping her voice warm despite the chilly reception. They sat down and an uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Cameron looked between the two women, clearly struggling with what to say. "Your son is very talented," Amara said finally. "You must be proud of what he's accomplished." "I was," Catherine said, "until he decided to throw it all away." "Mother," Cameron started, but Amara touched his arm. "It's okay," she said. She looked directly at Catherine. "Mrs. Knox, I understand you're concerned about the changes Cameron is making, but he's not throwing anything away. He's building something better, something truer to who he is." "And who is that?" Catherine asked sharply. "Because the son I raised knew what it took to succeed in this world." "Pretending to be someone I'm not," Cameron challenged. "Denying half of my heritage? Is that what it takes to succeed?" Catherine flinched. "I did the best I could for you." "I know you did," Cameron said, his voice softening. "But, Mom, I can't keep living a lie. I won't." "Is that what you think your life has been? A lie?" "Parts of it," Cameron admitted. "The parts where I tried to fit into boxes that were too small for me, where I said things I didn't believe because they would sell product or get attention." He reached across the table for his mother's hand. "I want to be whole, Mom. I want to honor all of who I am, including the parts that come from my father." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "He left us," she whispered. "He walked away without a backward glance." "I know," Cameron said gently, "and that hurt you deeply. It hurt me too, but that doesn't mean I have to reject that part of myself." Amara watched the exchange with a full heart. This was healing happening right before her eyes. Painful, messy healing. "Mrs. Knox," she said softly, "I lost my mother 5 years ago. The fragrance I wear every day is my way of keeping her with me. Our scent line, Heritage Scents, is about honoring where we come from. All of it, the beautiful and the painful. It's about integration, not division." Catherine looked at Amara for a long moment, then at her son. "You really love her, don't you?" she asked Cameron. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "More than I've ever loved anyone." Catherine dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. "I don't understand all of this," she admitted, "but I want to try. For you. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a complete resolution, but it was a beginning." As they finished their lunch, the conversation gradually became easier. Catherine even smiled when Amara told her about the almond-scented perfume they were developing, inspired by the bottle Cameron had kept from his childhood. "You kept that?" Catherine asked, surprised. "After all these years." "It reminded me of you," Cameron said simply. "Of home." Tears filled Catherine's eyes again, but this time they seemed like healing tears. As they said goodbye outside the restaurant, Catherine hesitantly hugged Amara. "Thank you," she whispered, "for bringing my son back to me, the real one." Watching them, Amara knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Catherine had decades of her own pain and prejudice to work through, but the door was open now. Healing had begun. 6 months later, Amara stood backstage at the launch event for Heritage Scent's first complete collection. The venue was nothing like the sterile white space where she'd first met Cameron. Instead, it was warm and inviting, with plants and natural materials everywhere. "Nervous?" Cameron asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "A little," she admitted. "It's a big night." "The biggest," he agreed, "but not because of the launch." Amara turned in his arms to face him. "What do you mean?" Cameron reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I was going to wait until after the event, but I don't think I can." Amara's heart began to race as he opened the box, revealing a beautiful ring with a yellow diamond. "Yellow like the dress you wore to our first interview," Cameron explained. "The dress your mother gave you." "Cameron," Amara whispered, tears filling her eyes. He took her hand. "Amara Vaughn, you walked into my life smelling like love when I didn't even know what that meant. You showed me how to be real, how to be whole. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Amara said without hesitation. "Yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, they heard someone approaching. It was Keisha, looking stunning in a dress from the same yellow fabric as Amara's. "Oh my God," she said, spotting the ring. "You did it now? Before the launch?" She shook her head at Cameron. "Your timing needs work." But she was smiling as she hugged them both. "Mom would have loved him," she whispered in Amara's ear. The real him. The launch was a spectacular success. The collection of 7 fragrances, each telling a story of heritage and memory, sold out online within hours. But the real triumph of the night was seeing Catherine Knox in the front row, proudly applauding as her son and future daughter-in-law presented their vision to the world. Later that night, as they celebrated with friends and family, Cameron pulled Amara onto the small dance floor. As they swayed to the music, he whispered in her ear, "I have something for you." He pulled a small bottle from his pocket, the original After Amara that he had created months ago before everything changed. "I promised you could smell it first," he reminded her, "to see if I got it right." Amara took the bottle and carefully removed the stopper. The scent that wafted up was warm and complex. Honey, cinnamon, a hint of spice, and something deeper underneath. Something that smelled like memory, like connection, like love. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "Not for sale," Cameron told her. "Just for you. Always just for you." As they continued to dance, surrounded by the people they loved, Amara rested her head on Cameron's chest. From the controversial podcast comment to this moment of perfect happiness, their journey had been unexpected and sometimes painful, but every step had brought them closer to truth, to authenticity, to each other. "I love you, Cameron Knox," she whispered. "I love you too, Amara Vaughn," he replied, holding her close. "Every real beautiful part of you." And as the music played on, the scent of vanilla, jasmine, sandalwood, and amber mingled with honey and cinnamon in the air around them. 2 fragrances, different but harmonious, just like them. The end.